What's up, everybody? Andrew Eng here, and welcome to the Heal with Andrew podcast, where we talk about self-healing, athletic performance, and personal development. Today is episode 6, and we're going to be talking about the 5 elements of infinite energy. In previous episodes, we've gone over the mindset, the 6 secrets. That was the mindset that we hold as we walk along the path to our journey of a pain-free life. We also went over the 5 core values of infinite energy. Those were the values, the goals that we want to uphold, the type of person that we want to be, and the whole point of going down this journey of discipline in self-healing. So today we're going to talk about tactics. These are the action steps that you take along that journey. And here we use the 5 elements of infinite energy. These are the same 5 disciplines that I used to heal myself from chronic pain and injury in every joint in my body when I was 18 years old. I didn't know it at the time, but these 5 disciplines were to shape the rest of my life as an advocate of living pain-free and injury-free lives. Let's dive in to the 5 elements of infinite energy. Element number 1 is self-massage mastery. The first thing that I would do if you came in to get a healing session from me is to feel where there are tight spots and then use my elbow to press into that spot and apply focused pressure. This is what the body wants in terms of muscular pain and muscular adhesions. Everything gets all knotted up. The muscles want to be like fibrous bands moving sideways like this. And what happens as we use our bodies is that it gets all glued up and starts sticking together, creating knots. The way that we undo these knots is by putting focused pressure onto that spot that's all tied up. And what's going to happen is that knot is first going to flatten out, and then the strands are going to begin to separate. That is how you release tension in the muscles, and it's the fundamental principle that we use throughout all of self-massage mastery. So I thought, how can I replicate the experience of getting a massage from me in the clinic for everyone else around the world who can't immediately get access to in-person treatment? I realized that using a ball, like a lacrosse ball or a tennis ball, is about the same size as an elbow. So you laying on your back on top of a ball, just staying in one spot, is equivalent to someone with their elbow pressing in on that same spot. This way you can get healing any time of day and any time of night without having to make an appointment or spend hundreds of dollars every week for treatment. This is how the healing treatments that we do get become more effective, last longer, and it's more fun for your practitioner to see that you've been doing the work on the outside. Because then it doesn't feel like all of the responsibility is on the healer to take care of the health and wellness of the client. We need to work together as a team so that you can be as healthy and happy as possible. And the best way is to do your homework, using a ball to give your body deep tissue massage while activating acupuncture points at the same time. Element number 2 is called anchored stretching. It's a style of stretching I developed, drawing inspiration from Kung Fu, Taekwondo, sport karate, yoga, physical therapy, and I've put a little twist on it that's different in the way that I've seen it explained in other places. See, I've had many patients in the clinic when I ask them, do you ever stretch your neck for your neck pain? They usually tell me that they learned some stretches like this. Now, those are great if you're not used to using your regular range of motion. And there's a way that we could take it to another level, and I call this anchored stretching. In this way, we place anchors on parts of the body so that we can pull it past its normal range of motion and get gains in flexibility. It's very important to practice your flexibility. And I know in the beginning it can be uncomfortable and you don't want to do it because it feels like something is really blocking you from getting forward in your stretching. So there's a little hack. It's called element number 1, self-massage mastery. So when you stretch and you feel like there's a tight spot that almost feels dangerous to try to stretch through it, that is where there's a muscular adhesion. And all we have to do is use a ball to put our body weight on it, undo the knot, and when we stretch again, we're going to be able to move a lot farther into that range of motion without the pain of that adhesion. Doing it in this way of using the stretch as a diagnosis to then know where to put the ball so that you can stretch again and get deeper into the stretch. I found this to be incredibly effective in helping you move forward in flexibility much faster than without the use of the ball. And one of the main reasons why flexibility is important is because of something I call the threshold of flexibility. flexibility. There are certain thresholds of flexibility that we want to achieve in order to get a baseline of range of motion and painlessness. For example, in the neck stretch that I did earlier, if your range of motion was only here, well, then your neck is probably really tight and has a high percentage of already being in pain or having pain come along the way. But if your neck can stretch to here with no problem, there's no pain, there's really no strain, and it's not a big deal, well, then you have a nice threshold of flexibility that's going to give you a higher percentage of not being injured because you have all of this range of motion, and you have a higher chance of having the proper circulation so that you can heal quickly. So stretch, use the ball, and then stretch again. Secret number 3 is energy healing. Now, I know some people may think that energy healing is woo-woo crackpot stuff from the East. But maybe, just maybe, you'll be among the people who have experienced the power of meditation and energy cultivation and can attest to the results and experiences of countless people over thousands of years. And open your mind briefly to the possibility of energy cultivation. And if you're already on board with the energy train, well, then let's hop on and go. I was really disappointed in college when I took a class on skeptability where we learned how to see through human biases. And in that class, they told me straight up that energy wasn't real. I remember being super disappointed because I loved the concept of energy and wanted it to be a part of my life for so long. Fast forward to when I met my first Qigong teacher, Grandmaster Douglas Wong, and in my first class, I felt energy for the first time. He had taken me through a classic process of bringing someone to feel what their own energy feels like for the first time. And my Western scientific trained mind thought, well, of course, this has to be some sort of psychosomatic influence because I'm in the room, we're all doing the same thing, and maybe I'm just imagining it. So I should test it again and again to see if I can replicate that same result. So I practiced every day for a month, and by the end of that month of dedicated practice, I was able to replicate that feeling of energy over and over again, and I began to start my cultivation practice. After I learned how to feel energy and then learn how to cultivate and gather energy and then how to circulate it through my body, from there is when I learned how to help other people using that same skill. After learning how to do it on myself, I then would just do it for other people. Connect with their energy, move it, circulate it, and unblock energy from their body. Just like we have a circulatory system and a respiratory system and a nervous system, we also have an energy system. And this energy system can get blocked. I like to imagine it like an electromagnetic field, and our hands are like magnets. And when we're feeling frazzled, having an emotional response, it feels like our energy is all jagged and scattered. Whether you can feel it physically, you can experience it mentally. Life is not smooth in that moment. And since we're not feeling smooth, then our energy is not going to be smooth. So when we use our hands to magnetize the energy, it's like putting all of the magnetic polarity in the right direction again. Magnets are more powerful when they're aligned. See, the idea of meditating in a way that was just sitting there and not thinking anything didn't resonate with me. And many of the people that I've spoken to about meditation felt like there was a barrier because it didn't make sense to them. Well, the way that I learned how to meditate was through cultivating my internal energy because it gave me a point of focus to think about. Do I feel energy? Where do I feel it? And when I do feel that energy, how can I move it and manipulate it and help it flow in the right direction so that I can have good health? It's also useful to practice energy cultivation if you're an empathetic person. Many people I've spoken to that come into the clinic feel like they take on too much of other people's energy, whether it's from their parents or from their coworkers or bosses. There's people around them that may be spreading negativity or stressful situations, and it feels like it's difficult to cleanse it from the body. Negativity is sticky. It's like a sticky type of energy. That's why it's so easy to complain to other people back and forth. Sometimes we call that pass the pain. When we're hurt, then we want to lash out at somebody else. And then we feel better, but then that person is now in pain. And then we just pass the pain around and around. Instead of taking the ownership of breaking that cycle, calming down, and using the tools available to us to help us feel healthy and grounded. And that is the power of energy healing. Number 4 is movement mechanics. In massage school, I learned a concept called body mechanics. Because as you find when you're massaging for long periods of time, it's a lot of stress on the body. It is physical labor to be doing massage. It's hard enough to massage someone for 10 minutes. Imagine an hour. Imagine 2 hours. Imagine several massages throughout the day and several days through the week where you're helping more and more people. This quickly adds up and puts significant stress on the practitioner who's doing body work or any form of healing modality. So to mitigate this, we practice body mechanics, aligning our bodies in a way that can apply force in a relaxed manner that also feels good for the recipient, and it's more sustainable for us as the healers in the long run. At the same time, I was studying internal martial arts, Qigong and Tai Chi, and I realized that the principles were the same. Relaxation, structure, flow of movement, applying consistent strong pressure using the bone structure of our body instead of using muscular force. That's why there's that phrase called muscling it. It's unsustainable to muscle things for long periods of time, so let's sharpen up our technique and then add the muscle on top of that. When we apply the body mechanics from healing and Tai Chi to regular daily life, it gives us the same effect because it takes stress on the body just to stay upright, especially if we have poor posture and it's pulling our body down in different directions. Because if we're ever leaning in a certain way, the muscles in the back have to tighten up to keep us from falling over. So this chronic tension over time ends up causing a lot of pain. That's why it's important to have good posture so that we can balance the bones in our body and just use physics rather than having to tense up different muscle groups just to stay upright. In jiu-jitsu, we call this framing, using our frames to hold people at bay without using too much muscle. And when you have good frames, then you can add some muscle on top of that. When you add muscle on top of that, then you're extra powerful. So these concepts from martial arts and healing can be taken into our regular lives so we can heal faster, have more energy, and last longer. And when our body is aligned and moving efficiently, then our spine is going to be straight up and down, and the nerves are going to be able to fire freely from around it. At the same time, our energy channels will be unblocked. Even our circulatory system, all the blood vessels, they will be unblocked too. And everything in the body is going to be flowing smoothly, and you'll have better health doing it than if you didn't do it. I wish this is something that we were taught growing up as children, but unfortunately in society, we have been taught not to take accountability for our own health and just leave everything in the hands of healthcare practitioners. I believe that we need to educate ourselves so that we can communicate and work with our healthcare practitioners so we can make an informed opinion based off of how we feel, our own experience, and the expertise and knowledge of other healers. Element number 5 is called ultimate coordination, and this builds upon element 4, movement mechanics. What do we do with this knowledge of body structure, mechanics, and having the most efficient posture possible? Ultimate coordination is the application of those body mechanics. In my case, I like to apply it to martial arts and street dance. In martial arts, I practice Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I got my blue belt last year. I also continue to practice Kung Fu, Tai Chi, and Qigong. But my main focus right now is Jiu-Jitsu, and I love it because it's an advanced application of movement mechanics. We got to use our frames, it's a dynamic situation, and we even have the challenge of a resisting opponent. Now this brings a level of complexity that really stresses your nervous system and forces you to adapt and have a stronger sense of reflexes and intuition. In street dance, I love the style of popping. I used to practice all the different styles like locking, house, breaking, and now I focused on popping because of its emphasis on body mechanics, body control, and flow. So when you combine movement mechanics and ultimate coordination, I like to call it street style Tai Chi. It's like taking the principles of Tai Chi and applying them to a modern form of movement like popping. Because Tai Chi used to be a martial art, but at some point they had a gathering, took out a lot of the martial applications out of the form, and that's how it turned to a primarily health cultivation system. So I thought, hey, if this is more about the health cultivation and less about the martial arts aspect, then let's take those principles, apply them to dancing, and it's a new form of cultivation. We're practicing popping, but also moving energy at the same time, making sure that we're having strong horse stances from Tai Chi, and helping to facilitate the flow of energy through our body, like in energy healing, which is flexible from our anchored stretching practice, and doesn't have any physical blockages from our self-massage mastery practice. And all 5 of these elements put together help you to access that feeling of infinite energy. Infinite energy is that flow state where you're having so much fun, you're not getting tired, and you could go on endlessly because you're in the zone. To me, it feels like that feeling when I was a little kid, running to the playground as fast as I could, feeling elated, so much excitement in my heart because I knew that it was going to be so fun and I was absolutely juiced for it. If you can find that in any activity in your life, hold on to it dearly and practice. And don't let pain and injury stop you from continuing along your journey. Because it's never for lack of passion or fun that stops us from doing what we love. It's always a surprise injury or the pains creeping in from too much training. That's why I'm so passionate about teaching people how to heal themselves. Because I love training. I've trained my entire life. And when I lost that ability due to injuries, it started affecting my mental health because I couldn't do the thing that made me happy. So I learned that healing is a necessary part of training. Training and healing are not separate. You need to heal so that you can train. So when I'm practicing self-healing, I don't think of it as a separate thing from my normal practice. I think of it as practice, still, a balance of yin and yang, the healing practice to balance the training practice. This is how I've put it together and how I like to do it. And I've used this to coach thousands of people and help them along their journeys as well. If you want to learn more about how I do it, you can visit backpainmastery.live, where you can watch a free masterclass that introduces you to these 5 elements of infinite energy. And if you have your own things that you want to mix and match in there, for you maybe it's basketball, or maybe it's just playing with your kids and being a great parent. In any case, you can use this framework of healing yourself and then training yourself for health cultivation so that you can live happily and healthily, chasing your dreams and supporting the people that you love. These are the 5 elements of infinite energy. I'll see you in the next episode.